Welcome to Book Club, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Tova Privet here. We are doing chapters 5 and 6. Hopefully we're prepared for that. And I just wanted to say a few things before we jump in, and I'm going to do my best to kind of talk about these chapters and how they apply to our business and where you can kind of assess where you are, where you stand currently with this area in your business, and then what to do. Most importantly, what can I do if I want to improve in this area? So I hope everyone's approaching, it's important to approach this book with a sense of take that assessment I sent out. If you haven't already, if you have the Audible version, I was hoping that would help, and you can print it out or screenshot it and write on your screen, but grade yourself, because there's really 3 scales of these different chapters that you're weak on, medium on, or strong on. And it's always nice to know your strengths, and then nice to know the areas that you maybe should pay a little more attention to. So approach these chapters and these nights with learning. That's a growth mindset. If you catch yourself trying to think of other people that suck at this thing, like, or feel attacked, that can be a little bit of a victim mindset. So make sure you're staying on kind of keeping your mind at a point of you want to grow and learn, because we can all improve in all these areas. And I really want to push you guys to learn these, because if you don't learn these, then you can't teach them well, and you can't call them out in other people and help your team grow. So you're really handicapping yourself and your team if you don't take the time to understand and grow with them, even if it's your weak areas. Don't just like wash your hands of them and be like, well, I'm not good at those. All right, so law of addition, we kind of already say you got to know what right looks like in order to emulate and teach it. My biggest takeaway here was intentionality, guys. This is not going to happen by accident, all right? It's not going to happen. You need to, on purpose, plan ways or plan to work on things in areas you know you're weak to improve upon. So it's the whole thing. When you leave a situation, do you leave it better than when you first arrived? That is a group chat, that's a coaching call, that's book club, that's any situation. You just chatting with someone. And guys, this isn't just Plexus people. This is a huge part of attraction marketing, where in this world of takers, subtractors, you're going to stand out if you're an adder. And if you think back to some of your favorite people in your life to hang around, they tend to be one of 2 things: really good listeners, which is a way of adding value, by the way, and adders. They're giving compliments. They're always saying what they like about you. They're finding the silver lining, guys. That's adding value. So there's lots of different ways to do it. This did not come naturally to me, okay? I'll tell you right now, this is in my medium category. Definitely not naturally one of my strengths, but I go out of my way to try to do it on purpose. And that's okay. That you got to work at it a little bit. Just be intentional. So here are some ways to kind of test the temperature in your team if you feel like it's an atmosphere of addition or subtraction. So is your team really seeking you out? Does it feel like they're coming towards you for things, or does it feel like they're kind of pulling away? Does it feel like high energy or kind of lower morale? Are they open with you and vulnerable and sharing their thoughts? Then you've created a comfortable atmosphere for them. Or are they kind of keeping things to themselves? Are you showing up as a team player, or is there a lack of participation? And I want you to think of your team and think of yourself, okay? Because here's the deal. Not doing anything is by default subtracting. And that was a huge thing I had to learn. I kind of thought, like, if I showed up to a group chat and I didn't say something negative or rude, like, things were going pretty good. I was adding value. No, not the case, okay? Like neutral, just existing somewhere and not being excited, not encouraging people, not adding your favorite quote, your favorite video, great job, congratulations, and people not doing anything is energy sucking. So if you find yourself that you've done that, no big deal. What matters is what you do from here on out. And it always goes back to this question, guys. I feel like you can ask this about anything. Do you want your downline doing exactly what you're doing? Exactly what you're doing. Because I promise they're gonna, and they're actually gonna double or triple whatever you're doing, good or bad, all right? So if you don't want any participation, in the chat from your team, then, don't participate often. That's going to trickle down. So don't be surprised. That's my big thing. If you want them adding value, being excited, watching videos, telling people good job, then you have to do it. Double what you want them to. All right, so a question to ask yourself, am I adding value as a leader, and how? And if you're struggling with some quick answers to that, like how do I as a leader or a teammate add value? If that doesn't come to mind quick, then that means you need to work on it. This should not be a question like you really have to be pensive about. There should be things that come to mind. Again, no big deal. It's okay if nothing comes to mind and you feel like, oh, I'm not sure about that. If you're not sure about that, then you need to be more intentional. All right, and then examples of ways I've already mentioned a lot of them, but also as a leader, doing events with people, three-way calls, coaching, listening, that's time. That's adding value and investing in somebody when you could be doing other things, but you're choosing to give someone your time, attention, emotions. And that kind of goes to servant leadership. I know we've heard a lot about that. Are you willing to give even when it doesn't directly benefit you? That's a big thing. I see that as a good point for a really big team, because with a really big team, there's going to be times you do stuff that doesn't necessarily benefit yourself and your people right at that time, but you really got to be a team player. It's the right thing to do. It's adding value, and it will come back when you need that help as momentum changes later. So don't forget that. So steps to improve this before we move on to the next chapter. So reflect. That's what we're doing right now. Just being real honest with yourself and paying attention. Being intentional, making a plan as to how you're going to give value. Being a better listener. That's a real good one to work on that actually very few people are naturally good at, and then even fewer people try to learn that skill. So that's a great one. And then trying to serve others without getting any credit. There's some quote out there, I can't remember it, but it's like, try to do something every day for someone who can't pay you back. If you're trying to approach life like that, you're going to be fine. You're going to find ways to add value. All right, so getting into chapter 6, I have a little more to say about this one. I think this is really important to understand, and you can really, I think, save yourself a lot of grief if you understand this and are careful about this early on. I think it's harder. Everything is fixable and figure outable, but I think it's harder to backtrack on this one as a leader. So it says, every time you break trust, it decreases influence. And that is across the board. That's with your team. That's with your audience of people watching you. We see this with our families. But a lot of times the law of solid ground, I didn't understand it for a while. And he talks about changing your pocket in here. And as you do things that build credibility and trust with your team, it's like little deposits. It's adding change in. And then whenever you slip, we're humans, we're gonna mess up. That's kind of what I want your biggest takeaway to be, is there will be times when you fall short. There will be times when you mess up. So you have to go above and beyond to maintain trust on your, good days, that you show up in your medium days, knowing that you're a human and there's gonna be mistakes that you make. You cannot afford to make those mistakes on silly things. So I want to really clarify ways that you can increase your trust with your team, knowing there will be deductions and kind of what to do when that happens. All right, so this is trust. Influence and trust go hand in hand. And think about it. The person, like your biggest business builder, they trust you. All right, I bought these products from Natalie and didn't even research them. And I'm a huge researcher because I decided I trusted Natalie, and I trusted how careful she was with her kids, and that she probably wouldn't recommend anything bad to me. So I just decided to trust her. Same thing with the business. I didn't really believe in myself. In fact, I tried sales before and failed, but I trusted her. So she had influence on my actions because I trusted her. So those things really go hand in hand. So he says there's 3 main components of trust. And one other thing I wanted to say about the change, he doesn't say this. This is just my personal opinion. I think Adding change to the pocket happens a lot easier and is in smaller increments than removing change. When you screw up, you have a magnifying glass on you, especially as a leader. And everyone doesn't remember all the pennies that you're constantly putting in and doing the right thing and showing up. It's kind of an expectation. And then when you mess up and you have, a bad decision, bad day, it's more like 10 cents are taken out or 15 cents are taken out. So I think violating trust costs more than building trust. Again, all the more reason to be proactive here. So he says competence, connection, and character. I think, and a lot of other people have said this, I've heard them say, competence can be taught. You can learn that. Connection can be taught. You can learn that. You can emulate that. Character is a whole different story. So you're going to have a lot less grief in your business if you go after people with high character. And it's not as easy, I think, to always tell as it sounds. It's like, yeah, like that person's blonde, they have good character. Not so much. I think you really got to pay attention, and people will eventually kind of reveal themselves. But you're not going to be able to fix somebody with bad character, guys. If you kind of have some weak areas in your character, I've for sure focused on certain areas of my character to try to make them stronger. So that's okay, but you'll start to see the differentiation. So character makes trust possible. It's not going to be possible without it. Think about it. I don't care how smart you are and how much you connect with me if I can't trust you. All right. So it doesn't go both ways. It's not like, well, character can be mediocre as long as you're really smart and connect with people. But it can go the other way. People will forgive a lot of mistakes if they can trust you. All right. How is character communicated to your team? I think this is an important one. Consistency and dependability, guys. Not everyone values these things. Not everyone sees them as really important. This is probably one of my top things where I will trust someone. I have a really hard time trusting someone who's not consistent and dependable. What does that mean? That means doing what you say when you say you're going to do it. So if you struggle with consistency and dependability, be careful what you're going to say you'll do. Like you might need to back off that gas pedal a little bit, and that's okay. So step your game up and don't commit to as much. So there's more than one way to kind of meet yourself where you're at, but it means a lot when somebody tells me they're going to do something. I'm watching to see if they're going to do it. And I don't care if it's something small or big. I think that says a lot about your character. And I really trust people who show up when they say they're going to show up and do the things that they say they're going to do. And, that goes for yourself too, guys. If you're being coached and you say you're serious about this business and you say you want to grow and we tell you to do certain things and then you don't do them, then something is up there, okay? Like either you're not telling me the truth or you're not dependable. Both things are bad. So just adjust. Again, I'm not trying to criticize, but adjust and move forward with integrity. All right, the team must know what to expect from you. This also goes for your audience. When you are not dependable and consistent, sometimes you post about this, sometimes you post about that, sometimes you post for 2 weeks straight, and then you're MIA for 5 days. That's inconsistent. That literally chips and digs away at trust. Unless you are rock solid, even when you're rock solid, we sometimes have trouble getting people to trust us. So when you're not rock solid, consistent, dependable, people know what to expect and they think of you, like you're wasting your time. All right, potential, weak character limits growth. People need to see that you're living out your potential and they will trust you to bring out their potential. Again, I did not think I tried sales. I was very confident in myself in lots of areas. Sales was not for me. So I leaned in to Natalie being able to bring out my potential. That was a lot of trust. But she earned it by showing up consistently for like 18 months, guys, posting about the products and following up with me. So she built trust with me over time. And then I finally was willing to lean in. And then respect. Respect is earned by sound decisions, admitting mistakes. That's a big one. Natalie's really good about that. I want to give her a shout out for that. So whenever she, doesn't do something just like she wishes she had, when she looks back, she's very quick to be like, oh man, I should have handled that different. I'm sorry. And it's no big deal. And it really creates a nice, safe environment for all of us to know, like, hey, We're all humans. We know we're not going to do this perfectly. Just admit it and try to do better next time. No big deal. Taking ownership, that's where that leads in. And no excuses, guys. Get results for people, get results for yourself. The dangerous thing about excuses is they're valid. All right. And I meant to mention that in the chapter 5 about subtracting and stuff. And Christina mentioned this in one of her videos. Even something as simple and as benign as being like, oh, I can't make it to book club. I'm, at my kid's recital. How is that adding any value? That's not adding any value. No one is leaving that chat better off by hearing you say that. It's a valid reason. You could have talked to your upline about that separately. That's fine. Don't put it in a group setting unless it is lifting other people up and helping other people grow. Because those little things just spread like wildfire. It seems like a silly, tiny thing, but it's not adding value. And it's making space for excuses. That's what it's doing. And people will copy you. And if we don't tell you this here, then you'll go and do it and make mistakes. And later you'll be like, why didn't you warn me? So we're warning you. Don't do stuff like that. All right. Something to ask yourself also, like, how much does my upline trust me? Have I established a good trust relationship with them? Do they ask you to do things? Do they give you responsibilities? So if they do, then that's a really good sign. And if they don't, and you want more responsibility, have that conversation with them with how you can do that. Action items for improving and growing your character. Every single person should be doing these things, even if this is a super high one when you rate it, even if you think you have really a lot of strength here. Inner circle is number 1 that you must be mindful and intentional with. Guys, you should be surrounding yourself with people that are going to pull you up. You should not be the strongest one in your group. You need a new group if that's true. You always need a mentor to be moving towards. And John Maxwell talks about your inner circle changing over years and that's okay. And you will outgrow your circles. So you got to be intentional with it. There is no such thing as a neutral inner circle. And I've seen some people struggling with this lately. And I just want to say that intimacy is influence, okay? When you're around people all the time, they will influence you, period. They will. And do you want your kids hanging around really, misbehaving, rotten other kids? If they didn't influence them, then you'd be fine with it. Like, whatever, you can make good choices on your own. No, we don't want them around it. So surround yourself with people that don't tolerate low integrity behavior. What are examples of that in our business? Gossiping, negative talk. And negative talk can be as simple as the opposite of positive and the opposite of addition. It doesn't have to be vicious, guys. A lot of petty stuff, catty stuff, getting offended, talking to other people about how offended you are or disappointed or bothered you are, judgmental, making excuses. Those are not uplifting situations. I'm not saying you're never going to have to vent to someone. It's really good to find a non-plexus person or go up. That's fine. Natalie, make space for me to be annoyed and vent to her. It gives me a certain amount of minutes, and then we move on. What can we do to improve? What can we do to prevent this? Move on. What's the solution that you're going for? I'm almost done, I promise. Second one is growing spiritually. There is no better mentor than Jesus. There is no better character or integrity than Jesus. And I think a lot of times we forget we have like this entire instruction manual there, all about how he acted and the choices he made and the judgment calls he made. Guys, and he led a group of people, a large group of people. He had a lot of influence. If you haven't watched the show Chosen, it's really cool to watch, to really just see it tangibly in front of you. But get into the word and learn about Jesus's character and the choices he made. And it wasn't always the most popular thing. And he said hard things to people for their better. So we can do that. A few other things, integrity development. So do what you say, no matter what, no excuses. And telling the truth, the entire truth, no matter what. This is a big one. So being really forthcoming with stuff, even when it might cost you, even when it might make you look bad. So no like half truths or no like, I hope they don't figure that out or that was a bad decision. Hey, just own it. Okay. That owning thing builds trust with your team, builds trust with your upline. And That's the essence of integrity. Doing the right thing, even if no one would have known. If you could have gotten away with it, if you could have made that mistake, you could have saved face and no one would have ever known, but you made a choice to kind of own it anyway. That's literally, you can't get better than that. And then being authentic and disciplined were the last two. Authenticity. So check yourself on this, guys, because this can be easy to stumble on. Depending on your audience, who's around you, in the situation, do you act differently? So that's your opinions, how you talk about people. Are you gossiping in some circles and not other circles? How serious are you about your business, depending on who's around, who you're hanging out with, who you're talking to. So that's chameleon-like, all right? So figure out what really matters to you and stick to it and surround yourself with all the things that support that. And then discipline. Discipline, the only thing that needs to be said about that is you're going to do what you're supposed to do, irrelevant of how you feel, if you feel like it or not. That's not part of the decision. All right, I know I did a lot of talking. So if you want to hop off mute, if you had any like super favorite part, but I'll start with our questions. You don't feel like you have to stick to the questions. So what leaders stand out in your mind who constantly add value? So like if you've been around and like to watch training, what is somebody that kind of sticks out to you? And in what ways do you see them adding value? Why do you enjoy kind of listening to them?
I'm just going to skip the question for this moment because Tova, you just so amazing. And you are someone that is trustworthy. You always show up. You're always there. You're dependable. You're consistent. You're all of these things that you are talking about. And it is so important to have those traits as a leader because so much of this business is based on trust. Like if I look at you and I say, you can be a diamond and I'm just blowing smoke, who the heck on my downline is going to trust me or believe me? I'm not going to have a team. If I'm not showing up, if I'm like, hey, you need to be on book club and I'm never there, that's a hypocrite. That's not leading by example. People aren't going to want to do that. So this was just, gosh, I don't know if these are my favorite chapters or you're just my favorite, Tova, but these were so good. And if people do not have this, they might as well not even go any further. If your people don't trust you, they're not going to buy products from you. They're not going to stick through detox. They're not going to stick it out when Ruby gets hard or Emerald's hard or anything gets hard unless they have trust in you. And obviously, if you're on here and you're getting people to sign up, they do have some sort of trust in you. So it is something that can be developed over time. It's just so important. I know I skipped the question, but someone else can answer.
Thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate it.
I have to agree. Tova is pretty much the most amazing leader, and I'm so thankful that she's mine. But to stick with the question, I put a lot of thought into this, and I constantly think there's so many leaders on this team, and there's so much influence. There's so much training that you can go to, and there's three. There's my top three that if I'm struggling in an area or if I know that there's somewhere that I need to strengthen, there's three leaders that I typically go to. And one is on this call, that's Fallon, or there's Brittany or Christina. And I feel like I am led to listening to them because they show up. They are trustworthy. The words that come out of their mouth, I have seen them go through the struggles. I've watched them develop themselves in those particular areas. And so I want to be more like that. So if I have, fears, like I'm going to watch Brittany. If I want to be more confident, I watch Fallon. If I want to be a better speaker, I watch Christina. Like there's different things in different areas that these women bring to us. And that's why we're an amazing team, because we all bring something different. But finding those people that speak to you is going to help your business specifically. Not everybody has that special person that they listen to or gets the same information from, but whoever speaks to you, those are the people you need to follow. If they're successful, now I'm not talking about people that are wishy-washy, you just like to see what they're talking about. It's people that are successful and that have something that you want to follow them and pick the things that you want to get better with. So those are three people that I absolutely love and trust and value, as well as my own uplines as well.
I love that, Sabrina. And I also agree with Fallon on Tova. I was texting Fallon. I was like, Tova is bringing it tonight. She is preaching a sermon here in a good way. But I would say, I was going to say the same about Christina. They always just give a lot of value with their trainings. I feel like obviously Fallon is a given because she's my sister in upline. So outside of her, definitely Christina. And she's just very consistent. So I really appreciate that about her. I was just telling Fallon, I'm like, I needed a good Plexus post and I knew Christina would have a good one. So I stole it from her. But definitely really appreciate that. Just our team as a whole in Plexus, our Pink Power team, like there's a lot of them though, who have really good training. And like Sabrina was saying, like you'll find someone who fits kind of your personality, like people who might be a little bit more into reading and learning like a major amount, like Brittany, and different personalities definitely speak to different people. So I agree.
I didn't think of any particular names because I was thinking of like categories of people, because obviously there's people who do trainings that add value, but especially working with, most of my work now is with diamonds or with jewels. So when we're planning things, everybody has different strengths and that adds so much value to me too. The people that are behind the scenes that are serving in their way of loving on people, or just really making sure that everyone feels connected and no one's left out. Or, I mean, we did Ruby Retreat, even the people who are picking up the trash and they just don't mind, just tell me what to do. I think that we can all add value, and it's how to win friends and influence people. It's making people feel important and serving them in whatever capacity. If you're not a trainer, you can still do it by loving on people. Is in this business especially, I feel like that's a big area that we can work on the law of addition.
Hey, everybody. So I know I'm new to the book club and everything. I just wanted to touch on the leader portion. So for me, Sabrina and Tessie have shown up constantly. And when I have fallen off, even if I haven't told them, I mean, they notice, they're always there to bring me back. And I see Tova everywhere, posting everything. Like, all of you all are inspirational to me. Starting this business, coming in, trying to find my footing and, figure out where I'm going. So I just, wanted to say thank you to all of you all, and that I appreciate all of that.
I'll check out the second question if you need anything to think of. What high character actions from a leader have a big impact on you personally? Like I said, consistency and dependability really have a massive impact on me. It's going to be different. Which ones kind of matter a lot to you?
One of my biggest characteristic I look for is respect. Something that I see very different here is I feel like everybody's very respectful of each other's time and their values, if they might be different, stories. Whereas I work as an activities director, and so my boss, a lot of us have problems with, and I think a lot of it stems from respect. I've read a quote that is, you can't force respect, it's earned. And I think respect is something that people define very differently depending on your core values. So that's another thing that I find is super like big in my world. Like, not to say that our core values have to be the same, but I'm a person that I can agree to disagree. But as long as you respect where I come from, my viewpoints, and why I believe that, like, that's all I can ask for. So I think respect plays a huge role in a super good leader. And I know he touched on respect in chapter 6. So
Well said. You have to do that. And we were talking about this on Jewel Coaching. Like, you're going to have strong personalities and different personalities. Like, you want that in leaders. So you definitely, I think that's an important thing to learn, to respectfully agree to disagree. Sometimes it's going to happen.
I'll jump on that with Emily as well. Like, adding value is huge to me. Just like she was saying, being respectful of time, showing up with integrity, and just showing up who you are, you know. And one of my favorite people who I have followed all of my life is Oprah Winfrey, and that's because she has always been consistent with who she is and what she stands for, and she has never broken that, not once. And that is what I always say to myself, on my weakest days, what would Oprah do? You know, and I literally live by those words all the time, because she is just a confident, go-getter, powerful woman. And so she always constantly adds value to my life. If it's a quote, if it's her favorite things, whatever that may look like. And that's what I want to give to my girls. So when I think of a leader, that's what I turn to and what I can do for somebody else. And the Lord will bless me in return.
Well said. She's a professional adder. And Tony Robbins is the same way. They could have retired so much sooner, both of them. They don't need any money. It's been a long time since they've needed money. And they show up and they give time and energy for the sole reason of law of addition. Like, amazing.
I love what Emily said too about respect. It's not just a given, it's something that is earned. You can't just stand up and be like, I'm your upline, you need to respect me, or I'm your dad or your husband, you need to respect me. Like, you're going to need to earn that respect. It's 5 levels of leadership. It's not positional leadership, like just because you're the upline. And I would say that the one trait that they all like, trust, consistency, all that's important, but definitely someone who's disciplined and shows up even when it's hard. They're willing to do the hard things. They have grit and determination. I can really respect that, because I know how hard it is to show up when you would rather be sleeping or wrapping presents or whatever it is, but you do the thing anyways. And like Tova said, you don't want to waste your credibility by not doing all the little things. Like, save it for something major, like you're literally in labor, or someone just had an accident and it was horrible, or all your kids are throwing up at once. Like, you have to show up when you can, so that when you can, you don't lose credibility and trust, because it is so easy to lose that.
I think Fallon just answered the third question. Between integrity, authenticity, and discipline, what matters the most, or where do you want to grow the most? So discipline, I guess, matters to you the most.
Hey, I'll jump in. So between those, it's so tough for me. I value all of those so much. So I'd have to really think about it and break it down. But discipline, I also want to touch on, because sometimes you will get a leader in a position that's not really maybe the best leader or the most consistent leader. And we've all been employees at one point or another in our life. We've all had somebody, that we've worked under. They have the higher position, and yet there's a complete disconnect. They're not necessarily a good leader. And that's when I feel discipline and then the authenticity of who you are. So all those things come back onto you, like your own discipline, your own taking initiative matters. So even with Plexus, not everyone is blessed with having a super powerhouse leader as an upline. That's not everybody's, that's a gift, you know, that you came into this business and you have somebody who's amazing and on point and consistent and shows up and whatever. That's not what it is. You have to sometimes turn back into yourself and find that self-discipline to do the things regardless, and to take the time and take the initiative. So that's why I think discipline is very, very important, especially with Plexus, that yes, if your upline is showing up and they have great leadership skills and or they're working on it, we're all going to work on it forever. But if they are consistently showing up and they're pouring into you and they're creating the boards and the wording and doing all the things, that's amazing. But there is a big gap of this that is totally on you. You know what I'm saying? It has no, you know, you could have somebody who pours in 24/7 and you could still, you know, you take that and go as far as you're going to go with it. Or you could have somebody who's completely MIA and you're running to the top. So I really feel like self-discipline is so, so important. And that reflection of really sitting down with yourself and saying, am I really that disciplined? Am I going to do the things? Do I reach for the excuse of whatever before I'm just doing it? You know what I'm saying? Because like what Fallon said right now, like, yeah, 100%. I'm sure we all have gifts to wrap and who's exhausted from their littles and who just got home from work. And you know what I mean? You'd much rather whatever. So we're here and we're learning and it's amazing. But I think discipline is really important for those reasons and not just looking on like to the upline you were given. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, they're great and present, wonderful, but that doesn't actually have any bearing for you if you don't like take that, you know, and be grateful for it and use it, is what I'm trying to say.
I'm sure Fallon has seen Jules who did not have a good upline run to the top. Like if you want it, you'll figure it out. Yeah, and it's just a blessing if you have someone to help you. Anybody else got any nuggets before we hop off? All right. Well, I just want to give you guys props for showing up 3 days before Christmas. There's a million things we could all be doing other than this, but it shows you're really serious about your business. So good job, guys. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you soon.